Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into the global perspectives on the Gaza war as reported by international newspapers. Because as we all know, there are few things more fascinating, and by fascinating, I mean soul-crushingly depressing, than seeing how this conflict is framed across the globe. We'll be looking at the subtle language used, the narratives pushed, and the uncomfortable truths that some publications might conveniently omit. Essentially, we're here to overanalyze the news so you can underanalyze your hangover. You're welcome. Stay tuned to get a comprehensive view of how different parts of the world are reacting to this conflict. And remember, it's not just about what's being reported, but also what's conveniently being printed on the back page. You know, next to those ads for discount orthopedic shoes. First up, we have the New York Times, practically America's diary. If that diary was written by someone who exclusively drank $12 cold brew and summered in the Hamptons, the Times toes the line between cautious optimism and ostrich diplomacy. One minute they're lamenting tragic loss, the next an op-ed argues things are looking up. Hope sells. Well, not as well as fear. But there's a fine line between analysis and presenting a conflict zone as a vacation spot. The Times should dig deeper, not just write from a comfortable office. Reading about complex conflicts from Manhattan is like understanding competitive eating by watching paint dry. Sure, it fills the time, but you're not getting the full picture. Next, we travel across the pond to good old Blighty, where The Guardian holds court, dispensing its own brand of thoughtful, often scathing commentary on world affairs. Now, The Guardian prides itself on its investigative journalism, and they've certainly broken some major stories on the Gaza conflict. But here's the thing about investigative journalism. It's expensive. And in the age of shrinking news budgets and the ever-growing black hole of digital media, one has to wonder, is The Guardian truly committed to digging deep, or are they just digging for clicks? Don't get me wrong, some of their reporting has been truly commendable, shedding light on the human cost of this conflict in a way that is both heartbreaking and essential. But then, you stumble upon a headline that seems more suited to a tabloid than a publication that once brought down Rupert Murdoch. It's a delicate balance, isn't it? Informing the public while also trying to stay financially afloat in a media landscape that seems to value clickbait over nuance. Perhaps The Guardian needs to remember that while a catchy headline might grab a reader's attention, it's the substance beneath that truly makes an impact. Chapter 3. Al Jazeera. A voice for the voiceless, or a megaphone for propaganda? Now, let's be honest folks, things are about to get a little more complicated. Because when you talk about Al Jazeera and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you're not just talking about a news organization, you're wading into a geopolitical quagmire deeper than a bowl of hummus. Al Jazeera, funded by the Qatari government, has long been accused of bias by, well, pretty much everyone at some point. Israel sees it as a mouthpiece for Hamas, while some Western commentators view it with the kind of suspicion usually reserved for gas station sushi. But here's the thing. Al Jazeera has also provided a platform for Palestinian voices that have long been ignored by the mainstream media. They've shown the human cost of this conflict from a perspective that is often missing from Western narratives. Now, does this mean they're perfect? Of course not. They have an editorial slant, just like any other news organization. The difference is, their slant tends to make people in positions of power quite uncomfortable. So, is Al Jazeera a voice for the voiceless or a megaphone for propaganda? Well, like most things in life, the answer is probably somewhere in between, but one thing's for sure, their perspective is essential to understanding the complexities of this conflict. Chapter 4. Le Monde, the view from the Eiffel Tower. Now we make our way to the land of fine wine, Gauloise cigarettes and existentialism, France. Le Monde, with its reputation for in-depth analysis and a certain je ne sais quoi, offers a unique perspective on the Gaza conflict. See, the French have this uncanny ability to dissect complex geopolitical situations with a mixture of intellectual detachment and a surprising amount of cynicism, which, if we're being honest, is a pretty accurate way to approach most things in life. Le Monde's coverage tends to focus on the international relations aspect of the conflict, exploring the roles of various global players and their motivations, which, let's be honest, are usually a delightful combination of self-interest and the faint hope of preventing the entire world from bursting into flames. They're not afraid to criticize Israel, but they're also not afraid to call out Hamas, which in the current climate of you're either with us or against us rhetoric, is about as refreshing as a cool glass of Orangina on a scorching day in Marseille. Chapter 5. The Times of India. Beyond the curry and cricket. Finally, we travel to the world's largest democracy, India. The Times of India, with its massive readership and, shall we say, robust editorial stance, offers a glimpse into how the Gaza conflict is perceived in a country grappling with its own complex geopolitical realities. Now, India's relationship with Israel is, well, complicated. They've got a burgeoning arms trade, shared security concerns, and a history of, shall we say, looking the other way when it comes to certain, let's call them, unpleasantries. The Times of India, reflecting the views of a large segment of the Indian population, often emphasizes the plight of the Palestinian people, while simultaneously acknowledging Israel's right to exist, which, in the world of international diplomacy, is basically the equivalent of patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. Their coverage tends to focus on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, highlighting the suffering of civilians caught in the crossfire. And while they might not always get into the nitty-gritty details of the conflict, their perspective reminds us that this isn't just a regional issue. It's a global one with far-reaching implications. So, there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of global perspectives on the Gaza conflict. As you can see, it's messy, it's complicated, and frankly, it's enough to make you want to swear off the news entirely and go live in a yurt. But that's the thing about the news, isn't it? It's important, even when it's terrible. It's a reminder that the world is a complex place, filled with different perspectives, biases, and agendas. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. And be sure to let us know in the comments below which newspaper's perspective you found most insightful. Or, just tell us which publication made you want to throw your phone into a vat of hummus. We're not picky.